Welcome to a new video! Today I'm going to share with you my Lyrilusc deck profile for the channel. Now this deck is a very interesting swarming deck, which is very cool, and honestly I just think it's very fun to play. But before we jump right into the video itself, I'm going to remind you that if you want to see more videos like this and help this support the channel and you enjoy what you see, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It helps a ton. You don't know how much it's motivates me, and I want to make for you guys more videos. Let me know in the comments down below what do you think, what you will change for your own list, or what your particular thoughts are, and your own questions, and give a like to the video if you enjoyed. But without further ado, let's jump right into the list itself. Alright, so jumping into the list itself, one last thing I would say is that as you can see in front of you, I'm playing the Tri-Brigade engine. Now, I know specifically some people don't like this engine, but I have to say that, at least for the TCG, you kind of have to play it because it's filled the vacuum of Starling going to 1. Now, when it comes to Master Duel section, we'll talk about it when we'll get to it, but generally for the TCG, I feel like if you want to play in the best way possible while still maintaining the spirit of the deck, you kind of have to play the Tri-Brigades. And even the pure versions that play this deck, that are trying to not play as much Tri-Brigades, still play Tri-Brigades to fill the vacuum of Starling going to 1, which I have something to talk about it when we'll get to it. But to start things off, of course, we're going to start with the Tri-Brigade engine just because it's easy, simple, and very straightforward. We're playing 3 Fractal, 3 Nerval, double kit, and then the 1 copy of Karis. Now in the Tri-Brigades, in Master Duel, or the standard one, we technically did play only 1 copy of kit, but the more and more I played with the deck, the more and more I realized for grind game I actually need the 2nd copy of kit. Sometimes I side this out for another hand trap if I feel like the games are not grindy. It's more of like, depending on the matchup, but for normal plays, I felt like 2 kit is just a must. This card is basically your Foolish Barrel for all your other Tri-Brigade stuff and fill your graveyard, which is perfect. Karis is your discard for one of your Tri-Beast and a free special summon out of your hand. Nerval is your main one in this deck because it's a level 1 Winged Beast and also your searcher for your other Tri-Brigade cards. And Fractal is basically one of your best, if not the best one to open up with, because this one use itself to pitch the kit, which will pitch the Nerval, which will then add back to your hand another copy of Fractal or Karis, depending on the situation, and then you just filled your graveyard with 3 cards for your plays for your Tri-Brigade lineup, and you still then up your deck as well. Just a really good engine, a very solid one. I think you all know what this engine does, but if you don't, just a brief talk about it, just to let you understand how that works. Then, for our, Lyrilusc engine, the main engine of the deck, I'm running 3 copies of Warbler, and then I run a different kind of lineup of birds. Now, it's really depend on what particular version you play, because there are some particular people who play less birds, there's some people who play more birds, which we'll talk about in a second. But I'm playing 3 copies of Cobalt Sparrow, 2 copies of Celestine Wagtail, 2 copies of Sapphire Swallow, and the 1 copy of Beryl Canary. Now, I know that this list, or should I say lineup, is weird, and let me explain. There are some particular lineups that I've seen, which I will talk about it for a second. I've seen people running 3 Warbler is always a must. Some people running 3 Swallow, or should I say Sparrow, and 1 Swallow, and that's it. Some people run 3 of this, 1, 1, and 1, and that's it. Some people run 3 of this, and then 1 of each of these, or 3 of this, and then 1 of all of these. And some people run the same lineup, maybe plus an additional Beryl Canary. There's a lot of diversity where it comes to the build. It's honestly depend on what you want specifically. Now, I specifically don't run the DP engine. Shocker. I'm going to reveal it right now because I just have a principal problem against the DP engine, not because of the fact that I think it's bad. I just think A, I don't really need it that much as people make it up to be. B, I think DPE is just something I just hate because of the fact that it's just such an easy engine to access, and I also want to make this deck as much budget as possible for people who want to pick it up and have fun with it, because I think mostly the cards are not super expensive, but maybe they're a little bit because of, the Tri-Brigade still being part a little bit of the meta, but, I'm trying to make this also as budget as possible for people like that. Not to mention the fact that I just hate this so easy fusion engine, even though I don't really have problems dealing with it most of the time. It's just really stupid, and God, I hope it will go away as soon as possible. But beside that, beside talking about DPE, basically for the entire lineup, Warbler is your free special summon from your hand if you control no monsters, and then she special summon a bird if you special summon herself. Basically, this is a great card. I don't understand people who run 3 of this and 1 of this, because if you're just focusing on a Tri-Brigade and you don't have this with any, you know, bird in your hand, it just doesn't really do anything, because this one can only special summon from a hand or graveyard. It doesn't summon from deck, so that is pretty important to remember that. And I just don't really understand people with 3 of this, 1 of this, even with the logic of free bird call, because I feel like you still want to see this card, or should I say see some of the other cards, because they still do things. Because Sapphire Swallow is a great bridge between the archetypes. This is basically, if it's special summon, you get to basically add a Winged Beast level 1 from your deck to your hand, so this can be a Nerval. And one of the combos that you can do is Sparrow plus Fractal, which we'll get to the combo itself. And it's actually a decent combo, which end you on Appaloosa 3 interruptions and 2 Assemblée Robin interruptions as well, which is very good, and you're still going to have 3 cards in your hand, so I think it's really nice. Also, it's just making your monster untargetable by your opponent card effect, so that's really good. Celestine Wagtail, in my opinion, is probably the most underrated Lyrilusc monster. This card is actually amazing, and a lot of people don't really understand that. I don't think you need to run this card at 3, because I think this one is a lot more brickier than this card, because this card, regardless, is still really good. This one is only good if you didn't really search with the Bird Call, but even if you search with the Bird Call, it's still a follow-up for next turn. But this card is absolutely ridiculous. If you open up this and Warbler, you end up on a better end board, which you'll see in the combo, than ending up with a Warbler plus a Sparrow. And this is also giving you the option to attach to your Xyz monster additional material, so if you go into your Zeus plays, this can give you more plays with that as well, or maybe even your Assemble Nightingale to just OTK your opponent. Swallow, if you control a Winged Beast, this is a free special summon, so basically what your normal stuff is either special summoning this in a Nerval, or special summon this in a Sapphire Swallow. It's just basically giving you the additional abilities to just special summon more monsters, which is very good. You just need to control Winged Beast. And also, if it's used for an Xyz material, it also can target one of these birds and attach it for the monster as well, which is actually very powerful, especially if you attach a Kobold Sparrow on your Assemblée Robin, and you get yourself like 4 interruption, 5 interruptions Assemblée Robin pretty easily with this card. Then we have Beryl Canary, which in my opinion is the worst one, not because she's like terrible card, but because of the fact that Xyz is not really the main thing that we're focusing on anymore, so only run 1 of her for certain situations. I don't think I ever needed more than 1, because we only have like a 5 Xyz, and 2 of them are like slap on top, so you don't really need this more than 1. It's more of like a follow-up card or a card in some particular situations. But that does it for the bird lineup. Hopefully that explains it a little bit. If you want to run your bird lineup differently, you want to run like, you know, I don't know, different kind of things, up to you. Just always remember that you have to run 3 of this. The rest is just up to you, depending on what you feel like it, and depending on your own personal deck. But that does it for the birds, and now we'll move on into the hand traps. Hand traps are on 3 Ash Blossom, because it's the best hand trap right now. 2 Nibiru, because I think Nibiru is pretty good, but I don't really want to do 3. 2 Ghost Ogre, and then the 1 copy of Didi Crow, which is a searchable card in your combos, which giving you the interruption for a DPE or an Artifact Scythe or whatever you need to specifically. Sometimes I actually want to play more copies of this one in the main deck, just because it's also just a starter. In weird cases, which you open up with this Sapphire Swallow and let's say a Kobold Sparrow, you're just able to just normal summon this, use the Sapphire Swallow effect to just special summon because this is a Winged Beast, and you can start your play. So sometimes I actually like to run more than 1 copy of this, but for the standard plays, for the standard, like, you know, game 1, I think 1 is enough. But if you want to run more copy of this, this is actually not a bad card to consider, due to the fact that it is a Winged Beast, and sometimes it can actually unclog you, so that's why I'm actually considering bumping this up to 2, maybe even 3, because it's already just not a bad hand trap this format, but it's also a level 1 Winged Beast, which is ridiculous, and it's very helpful for the deck. But that does it for the hand traps and does it for the monster lineup. Not really so much to talk about because it's pretty simple. Now we'll move on into the spells, which I think is honestly just self-explanatory. 3 copies of Bird Call. This card is absolutely ridiculous. 1 copy of Tenki, 1 copy of 1-for-1, 1 copy of Foolish Burial, 1 copy of Cold But Grave, and then the 1 copy of Harpy Fairy Duster, which if you want to can actually be Pot of Desires, which I've seen some people run, but I like the Duster just in case to just remove back row, I guess. Because people don't run, like, or should I say, what it called? Imperial Order is banned, so just running Twin Twisters or Cosmic Cyclones is just not really a mandatory thing. I think it's better to run Cosmic Cyclone, but because I don't really want to run more than one interruption, or should I say, like, back row removal, I'm just running the one Harpy Feather Duster because it will remove everything. Cold Bitter Grave is basically to just stop your opponent from stopping you. Foolish Burial is your starting for the Tri-Brigade engine. You send a kit, which send a Nerval, which get you the Fractal, or the Karis, whatever you need for the situation. 1-for-1 is to start with your Lyrilusc engine. It's basically just going 1-for-1. You can just summon a Kobold Sparrow and get the card back to your hand, which is really good. Or you can summon the Celestine Wagtail to get yourself the Bird Call. Or you can do just so many things. This card is really good, so you want to run this at 1. Tenki is for your Fractal, and then Bird Call is an absolutely ridiculous card. Not only it's a Searcher / Foolish Burial, but if you have another bird in your hand, is a free special summon if it's a different name. It just ridiculous. This card is absolutely insane, and just in general, even if you don't open up with another bird to special summon, this is still a very good card because it's getting you your free special summoner Warbler. So that is still a very good card, and you want to run this card absolutely at 3. And of course, if you don't draw into it, Celestine Wagtail can search it, which then can be a combo extender, which is absolutely ridiculous, which I'll show you in the third combo. But that does it for the spells, and then for the traps, we have the 1 copy of Revolt and the 3 favorite hand traps of mine, which is 3 internal permanents. Honestly, these can be whatever, but you know, these are my favorites, so I'm always going to run them. Tri-Brigade Revolt is basically your fuel card for next turn. So it's actually very important to run. I've seen actually people run this more than one, but like I don't really see myself able to just use this more than once due to the fact that we only run 2 Shrugs. If you run 3 of them, which I've seen some weird builds do, maybe you can just justify the 3, or should I say 2 copies of this. But even then, regardless, I think like the 1 Revolt is just more than enough. Basically just giving you the reload you need, and it just enough. I don't know how to explain that. And that does it for the main deck. 40 cards main deck, pretty straightforward. A very big chunk up of monsters, and basically a decent lineup of spells and traps. Now we'll move on into the extra deck. And for the extra deck, we're going to start with the Xyz first, because this is pretty much the lineup of Lyrilusc. We have the 1 copy of Assemble Robin, the 1 copy of Assemble Nightingale, the 1 copy of, unfortunately at 1, Starling, the 1 copy of Downward Magician, and the 1 copy of Zeus. Now, the copy of Downward Magician and Zeus basically is supposed to work with this card, because what you do if you're not able to OTK, or sometimes depending, is that you can just summon this with 2 materials, attack twice to the opponent face, or, you know, directly for the damage that it does. Then, if, of course, you're not able to OTK your opponent, you just slap the downwards, and then you slap the Zeus, and you have 2 interruption Zeus. And this can actually be even more than that. This can actually be like 3 interruption Zeus. Sometimes, I guess, more, but like, most of the time, if this is just for, like, exceed like 4 materials, I think it is mostly just an OTK by itself, but that's beside the point. Point is, this card is great. This card's allowing you to OTK really easily, but if you're not able to do that, as a follow-up card, you're able to just slap the Zeus and basically have an interruption with that. Now, Starling is your main searcher of the archetype when it comes to the extra deck. This card went to 1 when, the Samorgling got banned. I don't think this card really deserved it. I know that there are some people in the comments who might say, like, you know, this deck needed to get hit as well, but I think Starling, like, we could have just hit the Samorg Link, see how that goes, and still let this deck shine in the sun, because I think Starling is a little bit okay. Like, you know, F-Zero is a little bit better than just dealing with F-Zero and the Samorg Link, but regardless of the situation, this card is at 1. People still are trying to go into the F-Zero with, like, the Sylvan Link 1 or Xyz level 1 or rank 1, but I think like just going to that is just really just not worth it. But this one is your main searcher in the extra deck, or should I say your one-off only searcher in the extra deck. I do understand why this card went to 1, and just I really wanted to enjoy this deck a little bit more. I think letting it run around with the all unfair things that are going right now is still fine, but of course there are some people who think that, you know, this card should have gone to 1 and that's it, or even the deck should have got hit worse. But for me,
it is what it is. This is what Konami have decided. I just really, really want to play with this card a little bit more. But then Assembly Robin is your main interruption card. If you run the DPE engine, you probably don't run this card, but I don't really like the DPE like I mentioned, and I think this is a great interruption. And I also just love this girl so much. She's just such an annoying interruption of multiple bounces during the opponent's turn. Is just absolutely ridiculous. I love this girl so much. But anyway, that does it for the Xyz, 5 of them. Then for the links, we have 1 copy of Omirage, 1 copy of Double Dragon Lords, 1 copy of Ferrigit, 1 copy of Rampager, 1 copy of Rugal, 1 copy of Doom Eagle, 1 copy of Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess, 1 copy of Boros Sword, which should be access code, and 2 copies of Ominous Omen. Now, this particular lineup, I think, is pretty standard, depending, of course, on what you run. If you're on the DPE, you just cut this and add the Verte Anaconda, but I don't do that, so I run the Doom Eagle, which is actually a great card to deal with DPE when I think about it. It's another way to deal with it beside your DD Crow. You just summon this, your opponent have a DPE in grave, you just banish it immediately, or your opponent artifact side, you just banish it immediately, you don't have to deal with it. It's just really, really good. Almirage is for your Tri-Brigade engine if you're just getting stopped or something, and you need, for example, normal summon kit and go into something. This will allow you to do that. Dragon Lords is just your interruption bounce that you summon with your own general effects. Ferrigit is a card that I wish I could run a 2 because I don't really have the space. Sometimes I wish I could go 16, but Ferrigit is basically your general link 2 that you maybe even banish to from grave for the Tri-Brigade effects, or you just link into it naturally, and it's also just a great card to allowing you to free special summon sometimes your bird out of your hand and trigger their effect. Bear Broom is your searcher for your Revolt. This one is just a generally okay card. I don't know if I'm ever going to keep this card, if we're going to get something better, because this is just fine, I guess, but it's not really amazing. I guess it's like, if you have to, you can just go into this easily and then go into like an access code, like even without your Tri-Brigade setup, so I think it's good for that reason specifically. Doom Eagle is just, like I mentioned, is a great card. This card also can be summoned if you're stuck with 3 wind monsters, which is basically your Tri-Brigade lineup, or Tri-Brigade, Lyrilusc lineup, so this is actually sometimes really cool. And if your opponent have no cards in their graveyard, this becomes a 4800, which doesn't really happen that often, but if you are able to achieve that, I don't know how you're able to achieve that, this is basically just a really, really big monster, but mostly it's here just because it's a good link 3, and just a way to deal with DPE, I guess, for the most part. Appaloosa is just Appaloosa. Boros Sword, like I mentioned, should be access code. And then Sharug, the Ominous Omen, is a combo piece and also an interruption when it's summoned or when you summon a winged beast, or should I say a tri-beast card. So yeah, this card is absolutely ridiculous as well. But that does it for the deck profile as an overall. Yes, I know I took a little bit of time when we're talking about the extra deck, but yeah, this deck is really, really fun. I think it's very, very cool. Still, where it comes to Master Duel, which we'll talk about in a second, there's so many changes. Of course, if we're going to get a ban list, that's an entire different thing, because we might going to get a ban list that's just going to hit this deck completely in Master Duel. We don't know when we're going to get to 4th of April, but for now, this is the version for TCG, and it's doing really, really well. It's still a very good deck. It's not broken as it used to be with the Samorg link and all that stuff, but I still think it's very, very fun. But that does it for the deck list itself. Now let's move on into the Master Duel changes.
Alright, so when it comes to Master Duel, I don't have one list for you guys, I have 2 of them. Basically because I want to give you guys that actual pure Lyrilusc list, because I feel like there are people who want to play pure, due to the fact that like they don't really want to play the Tri-Brigade engine, but there's still the option for that, and because the Tri-Brigade engine is just so, or should I say the Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc is so different than it already is in the TCG because of some particular cards that didn't get hit. So we're going to start things off with the Tri-Brigade version, because this is kind of like more akin to what I talked about before. And for the Tri-Brigade engine, the most notable changes are the fact that we have 3 Tenki, the Samorg link still exists, and we also have 3 copies of Celestine Wacto. This basically just changed the deck so much because you can also run the F-Zero engine. You can focus more on the Xyz lineup, which is really, really powerful. Now, I don't know what's going to get hit where it comes to the ban list on April 4th, but even when it's going to get hit, I think this deck is not going to receive that much. In worst case scenario, basically I will just try, like, you can ask me in the comments and I'll just give you an additional tip where it comes to that, or I will maybe do a video where it comes to this deck after the ban list in April 4th. But this is kind of like the list for the Master Duel version, where it comes to Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc. As for the pure version, basically you just run everything at 3. Where it comes to your bird, you just trying to swarm your birds, and you're still going to the same lineup of like going to the F-Zero, but your entire lineup is more of like going to maybe OTKs because your birds are really, really good for that. And you have a very, very interesting lineup of tools where it comes to your extra deck, which I think is very, very cool. So this deck is very, very powerful. Even without the Tri-Brigade engine, which is very nice because Starling is at 3 here in Master Duel, and that's why I say, like, I think this deck is still fair to have Starling at 3, but again, everybody and their own thoughts where it comes to this particular deck. But that pretty much does it for the Master Duel changes. Not really a whole lot changed for the pure version if you're cutting everything, because you're just going to put everything at 3. But when it comes to the Tri-Brigade, welcome to the combo section. In the combo section, I'm going to share with you 3 combos that I think are pretty important for you to know playing this deck. And we're going to start with, like, you know, simple combos, like probably that require, or just going to end up like not on the best boards, and essentially just climb with it as we'll go along. And the first combo that we're going to do is basically the 1 copy of Fractal and the 1 copy of Cobalt Sparrow, to just show to you that running 3 copies of Cobalt Sparrow if you have nothing else is actually really, really good, and you're still able to do something very, very cool with it. So let's get started. So starting things off, we're going to use the Fractal effect, send itself to the graveyard, which will send Kit to the graveyard, which will send Nerval to the graveyard, which will search to back to your hand the copy of Fractal. Now we're going to normal summon Fractal, and we're going to use the effect to banish 2 of your monsters from the graveyard, or should I say the Tri-Beasts, and then special summon out of your extra deck the Farigite. Farigite effect, we're going to now special summon the Sparrow, and since Sparrow was special summoned, because this effect does special summon it, we're able to add from our deck to our hand the copy of Barrel Canary. This is why I mentioned that sometimes I like to search Barrel Canary. These are one of those situations because Barrel Canary will be useful in this particular case. Now we're going to take all 3 of these, and we're going to link into Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess, with 3 interruptions. And now, in order to finish our combo, we're going to basically special summon Barrel Canary by her own effect, and also the special summon of Cobalt Sparrow. Now, at this particular point, you can either go into Starling if you want to get DD Crow to your hand, or a follow-up, but normally what I like to do, of course, and I think the best one to do, is go into your copy of Assembly Robin and end your turn there. That way, you ended up with 2 bounces on Assembly Robin and 3 interruptions with Appaloosa. 5 interruptions end board, and I think a pretty decent one. But that does it for combo number 1. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Now let's move on into the second combo. Alright, so for the second combo, like I said, we're going to just start going a little bit more on complex combos. This particular combo is probably the brain and butter combo of the deck, which require you to open up with Cobalt Sparrow and Turkling Warbler. These are the 2 cards that you're probably going to see the most where it comes to your more standard combos, if we're talking about the Lyrilusc stuff. It's actually a pretty cool combo, and I'm going to show you what you're going to do with it. So to start things off, because we control no monsters, we're going to special summon the Warbler, and we're going to use our effect to special summon the Sparrow. Sparrow effect, we're going to add from our deck to our hand the copy of Nerval. You could, in this particular point, add the Sapphire Swallow, but I do recommend to add the Nerval just in case your opponent is going to Nibiru you or do something particular in the middle of your combo, because you haven't normal summoned, and you can at the very least use Nerval as a follow-up if you need be. Next, we're going to take these 2. I don't know why this one just slid all the time. We're going to go into our copy of Starling and use Starling effect, not the effect to increase its attack, because otherwise you're going to open yourself to Ogre and you're just going to lose the card. You're going to only use the effect to detach a material and then add from your deck to your hand the copy of Sapphire Swallow. Sapphire Swallow, because we control a Winged Beast, free special summon, and then free special summon again.
and we're going to link all of, like these two specifically, not all of them, these two, to your copy of Ferajit. Now we're going to banish all 4 of these from the graveyard, because we kind of have to, and we're going to summon our copy of Ominous Omen, and then we're going to link these 2 off into our copy of Bear Broom. Chainlink 1, Nerval, Chainlink 2, Ominous Omen. We're going to add from Chainlink 2 the DD Crow. This can be any winged beast or whatever you want to from your hand, which is like a level 4 lower, which is basically everything. And then for Chainlink 1, we add the copy of Kit, which again can be any Tri-Brigade. I just recommend to add this to just get more resources into your graveyard. Now, what we're going to do is that we're going to special summon, or should I say, even normal summon Kit if you want to, and then you just have an additional special summon if you have that as well. So this could be what her name, Celestine Wagtail, if you want the bird call for next turn, or you want something specifically to special summon and you have another extender to go into another interruption or something. But I unfortunately don't have that in this particular combo, so we're just going to ignore, unfortunately, the special summon off this card, and we're going to just normal summon this, use its effect, banish our 2 cards in grave, and then special summon from our extra deck the double Dragon Lord, or DDL. Then what we're going to do is that we're going to take all of these 3 and we're going to link them off into our copy of Appaloosa, Both the Goddess, with 3 interruptions, and of course we're going to add from Bear Broom effect the copy of Revolt, and if we want to we can also fix our hand with a copy of Ferajit and put a card on the bottom of our deck, and Kit will allow us to send, for example, another copy of Fractal to the graveyard to just fill our graveyard with more cards. Or you can even just send your copy of Kyrus, but I don't recommend to do that. I just recommend if you want to send the copy of Fractal. Then we're going to set the copy of Revolt and pass the turn to our opponent. And during the opponent's turn, we basically have what I like to call 6 interruptions. Because we have the 3 Appaloosa interruptions, we got ourselves the double Dragon Lord interruption, which is a 4th interruption, DD Crow to banish anything from graveyard, which is important, and then of course the copy of Revolt, which will summon 4 cards from our banished zone. Unfortunately cannot summon this one because it wasn't properly summoned, it was summoned by an effect, so that is unfortunately different, but we can summon Nerval, Kobold Sparrow, Swallow, and her name again, Turkling Warbler or Starling, whatever you want to, and then you can use all 4 of these to go into your second copy of Omen from your extra deck. And also one thing I would mention is that you are going to get the effect of Nerval, basically add to yourself another follow-up Tri-Brigade, which could be just a Fractal, but I'm not sure if Kobold Sparrow effect will trigger, because this says immediately after this effect resolves, go into the link summon of this, so I don't think this will work. I think this might miss timing, but if it doesn't, you can add any other, Lyrilusc or Winged Beast level 1 that you want from your deck to your hand. I kind of just didn't have the time to test this on ADO Pro or something like that, so I don't really remember if that works that way in timing with this, because, this could make it miss timing, even though it's an if effect. So let me know in the comments down below if it does miss timing or not. If it doesn't, that's amazing for follow-up. If it does, it's still very, very good. You're still getting to your Ominous Omen. But that does it for combo number 2. Let's move on to the final combo, which is combo number 3. And probably my favorite out of the 3. Alright, so for the third and final combo. We need to go in to open up with the Warbler, and instead of the Kobold Sparrow, you need to open up with the Celestine Wagtail. Now, this particular combo can end you in the same end board as the combo number 2, although with one additional interruption of Appaloosa, which we'll talk about it when we get to it. But I do like to go with this to another particular combo line and combo tree, which we'll talk about it when we'll get to that one as well. But let's get started. Start things off, special summon Warbler, special summon Wagtail, Wagtail effect. We're going to add from our deck to our hand the copy of Birdcall. Now we're going to exceed with these two, just like the previous combo. Going to go into Starling, and in this particular case, we're going to touch any of these to add from our deck to our hand the copy of Kobold Sparrow. Now we're going to activate Birdcall. Birdcall will grab to our hand the copy of Sapphire Swallow, and we're going to special summon the copy of Kobold Sparrow due to the effect of Birdcall, and, well, we're going to grab the copy of Nerval due to the effect of Kobold Sparrow. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to use the effect of Sapphire Swallow, Special Summon, and Special Summon. And then we're going to take two of these, which are the two middle ones. I like to take those first. And we're going to go into our copy of Ferajit. Now, on this particular point, like I mentioned, you can go on the same end board with, like, Banishing 4, summoning the, Omen, and then you just, like, get for your Appaloosa an additional one, basically just, like, making your Appaloosa 4 interruptions, but I think that's kind of a little bit boring. I want to go in to show you something else. So instead, what we're going to do, we're going to banish this and this from our graveyard to special summon from our extra deck the copy of, well, Bear Broom. Right now. That will basically allow me to just still have the Bear Broom with 2 interruptions of Appaloosa, but what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take these two and Xyz summon immediately into the Assembly Robin, which will trigger the Sparrow effect to give us the, or should I say, the Swallow effect to attach the Sparrow, and then also Celestine Wagtail effect will allow me to attach the copy of itself to this card. Basically, we're going to get ourselves 4 interruptions Assembly Robin, and then use these two to link summon into Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, with this time 2 interruptions instead of 4, and we're still going to get to our hand the copy of Revolt and set it to our side of the field, of course, after putting a card on the bottom of our deck. So what this particular end board achieved for me, instead of going into the same combo line, but instead of 3 interruption Appaloosa, we're getting 4, which is might actually consider to be better in terms of number of interruptions. Well, Assemble Robin is untargetable due to the effect of Cobalt Sparrow. Your opponent cannot target it with effect veilers or infinite permanences or kind of effect like that to just get it off the field due to, its own protection effect. Secondly, this card is 4 bounces, which sometimes 4 bounces are a lot more valuable than interruptions. It's definitely depending on the matchup, but the particular thing is that sometimes bounces are just ridiculous. The fact that this is 4 bounces is just insane, and you just can put your opponent in a very, very bad position compared to what they will have to be when they will have to deal with Appaloosa. Now, of course, technically, if you go into the normal combo line, you're going to end up with 4 Appaloosa, the bounce of Dragon Lords, this, and the DD Crow in hand, which is basically the same amount of interruptions when I think about it again. But I think Assembly Robin is a little bit more of a cooler card, and 4 interruptions of bounces I think are a little better. And we still have the Revolt after we'll just, for example, detach the Nerval to get to our hand for the next turn the Fractal, and we'll still get all the entire things that we're able to get from the particular combo. And we also just have ourselves another copy of Ominous Omen for next turn if we need that as well. So there are some particular resource management with this card that making it a little bit better. But again, it's basically depend on you, depend on what specifically what you want to go with. I think this is a really, really cool one. But that does it for the combo section. Now let's move on into the next deck choices. Alright, so for the next deck choices for this particular video, we're going to have the 3 returning choices, and with the 4th one. The 3 returning choices are Cyber Dragons, they're going to be Time Thief, and I believe Shadows are the 3rd option. And then the 4th option I'm going to throw in is Generators, because I haven't done a list for this deck for a very, very long time. So these are the 4 options for you to choose. Let me know in the comments down below which one of these you want to see first. I kind of already have an idea what you guys want to see first, but I want to hear if because of Generator coming into the mix, you want to basically focus on that. So let me know in the comments down below what do you want to see next. But that's pretty much does it for the video, and does it for the deck profile. Hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something. If you did, please share the video around with people to just, it will help the channel a lot. Also, let me know what do you think, or what do you want to know in general. But without, I don't know why I'm getting stuck on this. Whatever. Remember, creativity is the key in this game. Have a good day, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.